Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. So the invasion, the Russian invasion of Ukraine is now 2 months old. And this past weekend was the celebration for many Orthodox Ukrainians of Easter. And so I thought, excuse me, it would be really interesting to connect in with some people from Ukraine. And I've connected in with two members of the Kiev Rotary Club and to hear about how the invasion has impacted their life. And also I really want to focus on the economy in Ukraine and what's going on. So we're joined tonight by Alfred Praus, who's actually in Austria, and Dmytro Popinako, who I apologize, I pronounced that wrong, but is in Ukraine. Dmytro, let's start with you. How are you, sir?
I'm okay, thank you. Now I'm okay. I've been cut off by the front line for the first 2 weeks, because my country house is located up north from Kiev, and the second day, well, actually, the day when the war started, I was in Kiev. Woke up because of the explosions and went to pick up my family. We wanted to move the next day, but we couldn't because the front line, just wouldn't let us. And we stayed there for the first 2 weeks without electricity, without any supplies. It was hard, yeah, I can tell you. Well, I learned how to cook on fire, yeah, because there was no other means to prepare food. So, but then on the 11th of March, the neighbor came and said he had heard over radio that there would be a green corridor. So we managed to somehow to cross the front line. Actually, there was no green corridor because we were shelled from mortars by Russians, but nobody, hopefully, was hurt. It was like me and 3 other families with children, with pets, with grandparents. It was awful. But okay, now I'm in the western part of Ukraine. I'm safe. My family is in Poland with my elderly daughter. Okay, so that's just to tell you about myself a little bit and about the first days of the war.
Tell me, you're in business in Kiev?
Yes, my business is in Kiev. I run a company that provides consulting services. We implement ERP systems, management information systems. We're partners with Microsoft. So Microsoft develops the software and we implement and support it. So yeah, and most of my employees moved out of the city to the western part. Some of them crossed the border, as my family, and now we are back in business. We managed to restore the activities and continue to provide services to our clients. Telling about the economy situation, well, the statistics.
Maybe Dmytro, we can hold off and we'll come back to that in a second after we introduce Alfred to everybody.
Yes, please. Right.
Okay, Alfred, sir, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, sir?
Yes, with pleasure. I'm Austrian. I'm presently in Vienna. I'm a charter president of the Rotary Club Kiev International Business. At the same time, I'm president of the Ukrainian-Austrian Association. So that means I was shuttling between Kiev and Vienna with the focus on Kiev, where I have, or better to say, I had my family. I'm married to an Ukrainian lady. She's soloist of National Opera of Ukraine, so well esteemed in all Ukraine, opera, concerts, media, etc. And our son is 12 years of age. So me being an Austrian and me having still an apartment in Vienna when I was shuttling, so I was spending maybe, say, 20% of my time in Austria, or 25%. We decided after the 24th of February, start of the war, we will wait. And at the point when it got dangerous, in that Kiev may be encircled by the Russians, we moved out just with 3 suitcases, we moved to the south of Kiev, some 80, 100 kilometers south, stayed there for several days with an uncle of my wife, Susanna. And when it got dangerous there as well, because there is a military base there and etc., we moved to Western Ukraine. And after 2 nights there were also already alarms, sirens, yelling, etc. So at the end, and after several days of hesitation, we decided to leave Ukraine via Hungary to Vienna with my Ukrainian car. So now, since around 6 weeks, we are in Vienna, and the Rotary Club Kiev International Business people are dispersed. Some people are in Western Ukraine, like my colleague Dmytro, who was just speaking before. Some people are in Germany. One of our members is in Italy. 2 people are in the United States, but we manage to keep together, even at times like this, via online meetings, etc., because to be a club means you have to maintain a certain club life.
Well, and probably you're all supporting each other just morally and from a connection standpoint, as Rotary always does. I've been honored to speak to many Rotary clubs in Toronto, Canada, and in the United States. Anyway, thank you both for joining us. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back more with Dmytro and Alfred in just a minute and hear more of their stories. And I really want to not only understand how the war has impacted their and their families' lives, but I think one of the questions is, how can the economy survive? And it's amazing that Dmytro has talked about how he has been able to restart his business and have employees from numerous different locations as they've dispersed, connect in and continue to work. And I presume continue to receive their paychecks. I think that's probably something that we're all amazed with during the middle of a war. We're going to be back in just 2 minutes, everybody. Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga Night 60. We've connected up tonight with Dmytro Popinako and Alfred Praus. They're 2 members of the Kiev Rotary International Business Club, operating historically out of Kiev, but now it would appear that all the members are dispersed and they're still staying in contact. And I've been lucky enough to connect up with one of the members who's connected me up with several other members so we could meet them and understand how this invasion from Russia into the Ukraine has impacted them. And it most certainly has. Dmytro, let's come back to you, sir, if I could. First of all, you described how you went to your country home north of Kiev, and you were behind the front lines, and so therefore you were effectively in occupied Russian territory for a while, and you didn't have electricity, and you had to cook on fire, etc. Tell me a little bit about that. Did you see Russian troops? We've seen unbelievable images of torture and other things. I hope none of that happened to you, but can you tell me a little bit more about the impact of being behind the Russian lines?
Well, yes. Okay. The Russians, luckily, didn't stay in the village where I have the country house. They passed by nearby through the Chernobyl exclusion zone and went down to south towards Kiev. And well, of course, we saw some Russian tanks and machines and soldiers, but they were just passing by. We were lucky because everybody probably knows about the atrocities they've done in some of the suburbs. But we were on alert all the time. It was very scary. I may use this word. Yeah, to sit there and wait every day and guess whether they will come or not. So, okay. So, but generally, the village was not impacted where I was in this time.
And you said that while you were leaving, escaping through this corridor, you came under shelling. Tell us a little bit about that, if you could.
Yes. Okay. We sat in our car, and as I said, 3 other families did so in their cars. We were moving towards Kiev, to south, past 2 block posts of Russians. They took our mobile phones. We thought, well, people said that they might have taken like everything, but they let us through. And before the last checkpoint, they started shelling. And so everybody went out of the car, laid down on the ground. We had to, okay, as I said, we had children in our cars, pets, grandparents. It was hard, but I think that maybe they were just making fun of it, because I think if they wanted, they would hit us. So then, providing that the bridge was on the road to Kiev was exploded, we had to leave the car and cross the bridge on foot, and then the Ukrainian army car took us and drove to the border of Kiev. So that's how it was.
And then how did you get from Kiev to Western Ukraine? Did you have to get another car? Could you get another car? Was there trains? What like, how did you survive?
Yeah, I took my sister's car, and she had left by train to Warsaw before. So that's, and so I drove my family to the western part, to Ivano-Frankivsk, factually, and put them on the bus, and the bus, and they went to Warsaw. So that's how it was.
And so your family's in Warsaw now, and are they able to find housing in Warsaw?
Yeah, as I said, my elderly daughter has lived in Warsaw for many years, and so she accommodated my family.
Unbelievable. And maybe I'll come back to you in a minute to talk about the business. But Alfred, tell me about your experience. So you were in Kiev, and you stayed in Kiev for a while. Did you come under shelling in Kiev, or was that all in the northern suburbs?
No, I've been living mainly in Kiev for about 15 years. And of course, I'm a businessman. I'm coming from international industry and engineering board level. I had up to several $100 million business volume, accountability, and heading around 1,000 people in Western Europe in former times. So I'm a businessman. So that means concerning the business, practically all of the projects I had, they have at least been stopped for the time being. And I do hope that they can be resumed later on. Talking about shelling, I had several interviews with Austrian TV and Austrian radio and some Austrian newspapers. So meanwhile, or say in that time, in the first 2 weeks of the war, I have become quite well known in Austria from the media. And I had one interview, and suddenly there was the siren starting to yell, alarm. And it was my wife and my son who was starting to shout, Papa, Papa, Alfredo, my wife calls me Alfredo. We have to leave, we have to leave. We have a shelter nearby. We have to leave, there is alarm. And that was in the middle of a live interview. So it couldn't have been more live. And that means sometimes in Vienna, when I'm coming to a meeting at Rotary, etc., people say, I have seen you on TV. I have seen this interview.
When you were shelled, my God.
I was not so much worried. Listen, that was at the beginning of the war. There was shelling by cruise missiles, by rockets. Kiev has some maybe 700,000 houses. Why should it be just the house we were living in? So I was not so much frightened. But of course, it was our son, 12 years of age. And the ladies are more frightened than men normally. And it was my wife. We have to leave, we have to leave, we have to get to a secure place. So that's the point. So I was not directly hit, but I tell you, driving, and Dmytro will tell you the same, driving to Western Ukraine with all the block posts you have there, the Ukrainian ones, yeah? They are checking your cars. They are checking who you are, it's a crazy thing. And in Khmelnytsky and even in Lviv and in Stry, this is near Lviv. When you go to Zakarpattia, so to the western part of Ukraine, to the border of Hungary, Slovakia, there have been alarms. So it's rockets, it's cruise missiles targeted to ammunition depots, military bases, etc. And who knows if they are as precise as the Russians say. Yes. So it was really something. And one thing, just to finish this issue, I was extremely impressed by the helpfulness of the Ukrainians to their compatriots, of course, but also to us. Okay, I was driving an Ukrainian car. In the small villages in Western Ukraine, there were tables beside the streets, maybe near the churches, with some food and some beverages there for the refugees to get some food, to drink something that was for free. Yeah, this was no business. It is incredible what the Ukrainian people do for their compatriots. And it's not only the army, it's a general feeling, a general attitude in Ukraine. Help each other as much as you can. We were staying overnight. They did not take any money. They refused. One of our hosts in Khmelnytsky, he took me to a petrol station. He was a quite high-level civil servant in Khmelnytsky. So I had more than 20 liters at that time of petrol. I had a full tank. And then he refused to let me pay for that. I had not met this guy before.
Excellent.
Can you imagine?
No, that's wonderful.
It's an extreme, impressive feeling.
The other thing that I guess I'm sitting here in Toronto, Canada, and so it's difficult for us to imagine. But the other thing that's come across from the media is that Poland, Hungary, Austria, Slovakia, Romania have been very welcoming as well. Is that the experience that you and your families have encountered? Have the other neighboring countries been welcoming to the refugees?
If I may answer, as far as I'm informed, in Poland, there are some 2.8 million refugees, mostly mothers with children, because the husbands, they can't cross the border. It's mobilization, it's forbidden. So it's women with their children, wives with their children. In Moldova, it's around 300, 400,000, 600,000 in Romania, 300, 400,000 each in Hungary, in Slovakia. And most of them are staying near the border because they don't look for a better life like many have been doing when there was a refugee crisis, Syria, etc. They were looking for a better life. Concerning Ukraine, they are just avoiding, they are just fleeing danger to their lives.
Yep.
And they would like and will, as soon as possible, return to Ukraine, return to their homes, and hopefully find their husbands in safe condition. I mean, alive. So a lot has been done. And talking about Austria or Germany, I think in Germany it's 150,000 who crossed from Poland to Germany or from Hungary to Germany via Austria. And in Austria it's 50,000. But they are all housed. There is accommodation for them,
Dmytro,
at least until now.
Dmytro,
So
tell me
the
about...
help is extreme.
Dmytro, tell me about your family's experience. Very lucky that I guess your eldest daughter has a house in Warsaw, but you must have heard about other refugees in Poland with, I think Alfred said 2.2 million refugees in Poland.
2.8.
2.8. I apologize. Dmytro, what have you heard about the refugee experience in Poland?
Polish people are very, very hospitable. They're welcoming and doing everything they can. That's what I can hear from people that I know and who cross the border with Poland. But also, from my business connections, I receive messages from different countries, from Latvia, Estonia, from Ireland, from the United States, from Germany, from many, many countries. People are offering their help and accommodation for refugees. So I think it's a very, very good move from the Western part of the world to help Ukrainians to save their lives. Yeah, to survive. Yes.
Dmytro, let's turn to your business if you could. You were saying that it's difficult to pay people and that you've lost some of your business for obvious reasons. Give me a status, if you could, of how this has impacted your business.
Well, significantly. The impact was significant. The clients that we have had in Ukraine, as I said, the statistic says that about more than 80% of businesses have been impacted. So our clients cannot pay for services that our company and many other companies deliver. So now we have to look for. Well, of course, we continue servicing our clients which are located outside Ukraine, and we have clients in the United Kingdom, the United States, in Europe, in Czech Republic. But still, the major revenue was coming from Ukraine, and now it is very tough. So what we're currently doing, we're currently trying to find clients and to talk to potential partners in Western Europe and in Americas to see whether we can be somehow helpful and help them with servicing their clients. And this is something that we're exploring at the moment. And there is a potential in there, but it's not that easy. So there are some savings that we had, and we're continuing to pay our employees. But this will not, the savings are not limitless. So we will have to to find some engagements pretty soon in order to continue our business. So that's what I'm concerned about at the moment.
How many employees do you have, and are you able to still stay in contact with them?
Yeah, we have 55 employees at the moment, and we're in contact with all of them. And everybody is in safe location at the moment. And as I said, we continue to service those clients who can receive our services.
Alfred, maybe you could let me know how this has impacted your business, sir.
I don't have a big structure. I'm a B2B, I'm a matchmaker in business. And that means I'm more pulling the threads than being in operating business. These are times years ago, than when I was so much in operating business. So it did not have so much consequences on my people. I have an assistant. I have somebody I'm taking in when there is business-wise, project-wise, etc., project teams. So there is not much impact on my staff. But my assistant is in Holland, in the Netherlands. She's also she's a refugee. So that means my basis in Ukraine is virtual, because I'm at the moment in Vienna, and my right hand and member and colleague in the board of the Ukrainian-Austrian Association, and also serving our Rotary Club, Mariana Cordon, she's in Holland, okay?
Right.
So, but just to give an idea on what happened, I have established a pool of IT companies, and Dmytro, we should talk today or tomorrow on some issues in this respect. A pool of IT companies, mainly in Dnipro. Dnipro is one of the big industrial cities in Ukraine, may be endangered in future, you never know, not so far from the war lines, so to say. And those companies have all very good international credentials, etc. So we were starting a business with one of the world market leaders, German business, with one of the world market leaders in air condition techniques, technology. And this was a first pilot project with several €100,000 or dollars, US dollars. And it was nearly signed when the war started. And I had been the go-between. You know what that means for me if the whole thing does not work. And that was just a pilot project, yeah. And the German company, it's a world market leader, again, multi-billion dollar business, and maybe 10,000 people on 4 continents, yeah. So we had, say, potential and contracts in the pipeline of that size, and that broke down. Why? Because they say, listen, we are an international concern, an international group. We need reliable delivery. Can you deliver when there is war? Can you deliver when internet may not be stable or may be interrupted? Can you deliver if some of your people have to go to the army or have fled the country, and that these people are working online only, etc.? So we can't run the risk as one of the big players internationally, to be served by a company which may not be able to deliver in time or to that scale which was contracted.
Well,
so
and that's why
this is just one example.
That's why I'm so interested in speaking with the two of you and others, because I think that, undoubtedly the most important job is to win militarily. And that's clearly what the media is focused on in Canada, at least on an hourly basis. But this impact on the economy, on people's ability to make money and live, has got to be unbelievable, both for refugees that have left the country, but as well as the people that are staying in Ukraine. And so I understand that Odessa is a port for huge agricultural goods that are shipped primarily to the Middle East and Africa, et cetera, and that
agriculture, wheat, sunflower, etc.
And food prices, therefore, are spiraling almost out of control. And I was wondering, are farmers able to actually plant their seeds for the spring, which is right now? So it is a really interesting topic. Anyway, we're going to take a break for some more messages and be back in 2 minutes with Dmytro and Alfred, 2 members of the Rotary International Business Organization Club in Kiev, Ukraine. Dmytro is in Western Ukraine right now. His family's in Poland, and Alfred is in Austria with his family. Both of them, thankfully, safe right now. Back in 2 minutes, everyone. Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. We're focused tonight on the impact of the Russian invasion into Ukraine on people and their businesses, and jobs and income, and what's actually happening to people get paychecks. Alfred, I understand that you're very involved in Rotary, more than just in Kiev, and that you've organized quite a lot of assistance from different Rotary clubs to what's going on in Ukraine. Tell me a little bit about that, if you could, sir.
Yes, as president of the Ukrainian Rotary Club Kiev International Business, I have also co-founded the Intercountry Committee Ukraine-Austria, and I'm co-chairman at the same time of the Intercountry Committee under Rotary Ukraine-Germany. So that got me immediately into close contact with the Rotary organizations in Austria and in Germany, first. And secondly, since I was stranded more or less in Vienna, I got in personal touch with the high echelons, so to say, of both countries. And that means that a considerable, a really substantial part of my activities now is dedicated for coordinating, for assisting, support to Ukraine by Rotary in Austria and partly in Germany. So I can tell that due to my activities, some minimum 50,000 euro have been donated to Caritas or to SOS Children's Village in Ukraine to take care of children, elderly people, etc. in Ukraine. And it's probably much more because it was my influence, and I'm not aware of each and every donation which has been given due to my speaking at this level to these people in these clubs, etc., online, etc., etc. So that is one thing. The second thing is taking into account the status of my wife as one of the mainstays of the National Opera in Ukraine, in Kiev. She's a soprano. She had to leave Ukraine with me. So that means she is fully deprived of her business, or say of her cultural activities. She was also an associate professor at one of the well-established musical academies teaching classical singing. She lost this.
Yes.
No money from the opera, from the National Opera, for her as a soloist. No money for her as a, how you say in English, docent, associate professor, yeah, in singing. And so just in between, one flat she had been renting out, and our flat is empty. So even the flat, we had a diplomat there, a Western European diplomat. She fled Ukraine. So that means regular income of my wife has dropped from a very nice level in Ukraine to practically zero.
Right.
So that means she has to try to establish a new living in culture in Western Europe. So this is concerts, and this is possible, possibly to attain professorship, yeah, at the musical academy, also in Austria. So this means I'm planning, and I've already fixed up some big concerts. When I say big concerts, I mean in musical theaters with, say, seating 2,000 people, with internationally known and established orchestras in the Austrian cities of Linz and of Salzburg. This has already been agreed for June, and there is planned, call it a tournée of soloists of National Opera in Germany, soloists of Ukrainian National Opera singing for Ukraine, using their voices as their weapons, fighting for Ukraine, and not concerts by people, by stars or tenors or sopranos from Germany or from Austria. No,
right.
They are directly from Ukraine, from the National Opera, because Susanna is not the only one. So I'm also organizing that.
Excellent.
So
well,
this is taking a lot of my time.
I congratulate
and
you and your,
this
your
is
wife on
not
that
bringing
regard.
me money. This is bringing me a reputation, and I must say, as a humanist, satisfaction as well.
I can imagine. I did business in Kiev in 2006 to 2008, and I was in and out several times, and went to the I believe what was called the Kiev Opera House, and enjoyed numerous different operas. So maybe I had the pleasure of listening to your wife if she was a soloist during that time.
Susanna Chachoyan. So well conceivable.
Fantastic. Dmytro, tell me a little bit about what you've been doing via Rotary to assist Ukraine, if you could.
Well, we are trying now, to collect, to to mobilize Rotaries around the world and to see what help the world can provide, and the Rotary Club in different countries. We're doing it. We're different means. We're social networks. We're personal contacts, and that's what the main activities I see are currently happening. This is not easy, because we cannot reach out to many people, unfortunately. But as Alfred said, we do receive some results. We do plan, to collect even more money to help our Ukrainian forces to fight against the invasion. That's I guess everything that I can tell about our current activities.
Okay, thank you. I wonder if
let me have one sentence, Brian, please.
Certainly.
Talking about Rotary, making PR and marketing. We are an Ukrainian club. So any international, and you have international clientele, and you have listeners and viewers from Canada.
Yes.
If there is money available for donations, we are an Ukrainian club with international people. So that means we know what should be done. We know where the money is most needed. So we are open for cooperation. We are open for opening and informing on the projects we have in Ukraine for the charity projects. And if some clubs in Canada would like to spend directly to Ukraine and not just some international organizations, we have the local know-how, because 50% of our members, okay, they may be in Western Ukraine, but they are Ukrainian and they know what's going on. Also, I do.
Right. I think that's a wonderful suggestion. Is there a website that your club has that people could go to?
Yes, it's www.rckib.org.ua. I will give it in the chat.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I will write it down.
I wonder if we could turn a little bit to some of the comments that the Russians and Putin have made, or maybe it's propaganda. Probably it's propaganda. I did business in Kiev. I actually went to a Rotary office. I'm not sure if it was your office, Alfred, but I went to a Rotary office when I was in Kiev to make some connections because of my connections to Rotary here in Canada. And when I was in business in Kiev in 2006 to 2008, so that was a while ago. But one meeting I would have with people would be in Russian, and next meeting I would have would be in Ukrainian. I would go tour a Ukrainian Catholic church or Ukrainian Orthodox church, and then I'd go tour a Russian Orthodox church. And it seemed to me that everyone got along, and I had people that connected me up with banks from Moscow and with banks from Germany. And Putin has been saying, or the Russians have been saying, that Russian-speaking people in Ukraine are persecuted, and that the organization, the government, is a Nazi organization persecuting Russian-speaking people, and he was coming to Ukraine to liberate Russian-speaking people. Tell me, in your experience, how were Russian-speaking people treated in Ukraine? Dmytro, maybe I could start with you.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe you are the first.
This is so untrue. In Ukraine, we consider ourselves like bilingual. Many people speak Russian. Many people speak Ukrainian. It would be like in a dialogue. It could be like one person speaks Ukrainian and the other one speaks Russian. It's absolutely normal. And the humiliation or some other things that are mentioned by the Russian propaganda is a lie. I mean, it is so not true. Okay, we never had any problems on this language ground. For instance, in Kiev, when I was a pupil, when I went to my school, we had some subjects in Russian and some subjects in Ukrainian. At that time, in Kiev, there were only like few schools that had teaching in Ukrainian language. The others were in Russian. Okay, and the population of Kiev, for instance, is mostly Russian speaking. It started to change in the latest years, but not because of the government, because the current government that is called Nazis has been since what? Since 2019 only, okay? But it was natural because Ukrainians, after collapse of the Soviet Union, started to, to consider themselves as Ukrainians, and many people naturally switched to Ukrainian language. So did I and my family, for instance. But my friends continued to speak Russian, and it's absolutely okay to have communications in different languages with different people. It was even, sometimes fun and joy, to compare how, different subjects would sound in Russian or in Ukrainian. And there has never been any issues with this. So this is totally a propaganda.
Alfred, do you have a comment?
I can't agree more to what Dmytro said, but I may add something. The fact that maybe in all Ukraine, at least as it was before the war, 50% are speaking Russian, has historical roots, because the Russian language has been, call it chased, has been forbidden even during the Tsarist regime. And there are clear reasons over the past centuries why Ukrainian is now, or until recently, was not spoken so much in Ukraine. You just have to go to historic books or to some experts. This is undoubted, yeah, that it has historic reasons that 50% maybe of Ukrainians are speaking Russian. In my family, my wife was raised in Odessa. My parents-in-law, they live in Odessa. They're speaking Russian, but they are thinking Ukrainian. And mixing up or saying, putting on the same side of the medal, the language and the mentality, this was the biggest mistake of Putin already in 2013, 2014. The language Russian does not mean that Ukraine loves the Kremlin or loves Russia. And what's happening now, due to these atrocities, due to this genocide, in my view, I'm a foreigner. I can only say I see that. I see that through my wife. It's genocide. It's atrocities. It's brutal. It's incredibly tough what is done. Old things like the so-called Holodomor. Have you heard about it?
Yes.
This was 1933, 1934, Dmytro, I think.
1937, yeah.
Stalin let some 3 to 4 million Ukrainians, at that time in the Soviet Union, starve, taking out all the corn, all the wheat, etc., all the food from agriculture to Russia from the Ukrainian state at that time within the Soviet Union. And 3 or 4 million Ukrainians, they starved. This is, I can just repeat it, starvation triggered by Stalin, depriving them of food, of corn, of wheat, etc., etc., etc. And now, with this war, these old things are coming up as well. You know what I mean? Yeah, and that is creating hate.
Creating hate.
But basically, Ukraine is a peaceful, Ukrainians are a peaceful population, a peaceful people.
We're chatting tonight with
Dmytro
and Alfred, two members of the Rotary Club in Kiev about the war, about the invasion from Russia into Ukraine. We're going to take a break for some final messages and come back with some concluding comments in just 2 minutes. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. We're connected tonight with two gentlemen from a Rotary Club in Kiev, Ukraine, who have been operational, albeit virtually, since the invasion by Russia into Ukraine, and have kept connected with each other and supporting each other and reaching out to other Rotary clubs for support. And it's been a fascinating conversation as they've talked about the impact on them and their own families and lives, the impact on their businesses, and the impact on the economy in Ukraine. I wonder if I could ask the two of you to think about, what you think about your president, who seems to have become almost a hero worldwide, what you think about what's happening in eastern Ukraine right now, where there's a new Russian offensive, and what you think we in the West, in NATO, should be doing. Dmytro Popinako, sir, maybe I could start with you. Address some of those issues, please.
Well, our president showed himself as a very brave person. He's a true leader. Yeah. We had different opinions before the war about his presidency, but now we are united and we support totally the president. And I hope so does the democratic world. What we need, first of all, we would like the people in the West to understand that this is an aggression against a sovereign country, Ukraine. And we need support to defend our land, to defend the democracy, and not to let the Russian Empire get this back. Well, that's because that's what they want. We need weapons, and we need other support, which is possible, and we need it now because, as I said, the war is going on, and they try to proceed and progress and to do offensive in the eastern part of the country. So we would appreciate this help. We would basically we give our lives to support democracy and to stand for our lives and for our families and for our country. And we would like the world to understand this.
Alfred, last word to you. Alfred Praus from Vienna, Austria.
Yes. Let me tell you another thing in this connection. I feel that Ukraine and especially Western Europe should be extremely thankful to President Biden for the help. He is more and more now giving military help, giving to Ukraine. I tell you why. Because in Western Europe, there are two countries, especially, and the eastern part of Western Europe, Poland, etc., which are partly, and for Germany and Austria, much dependent on Russian gas. So the hesitancy of Germany and also of Austria to decide and to vote on a gas embargo is partly justified by, if we do that and if Putin stops the gas deliveries, the economies of Germany and of Austria would 50% reach a standstill because there is a huge dependency on gas, at least in the short run, say in the next 1 or 2 years. It cannot be changed easily. And if the United States are helping, they are keeping countries like Germany, Austria a little bit out of the picture, and the safety for Austria and Germany to still receive gas from Putin is higher, because it would be a disaster. I repeat it, a disaster economically. 50%, 40% of the German and Austrian industry would reach a standstill. So the GDP would not be minus 10, 15%. It may be minus 50% with all the social unrest in these Western European countries that provokes. And this is what Putin wants. So the US is helping Western Europe in this respect, not exposing Western Europe so much in that they are forcing, that Western Europe is forced to arm Ukraine.
Well, I must say, Alfred, and you're probably aware of this, that Canada is a very sizable producer of oil and gas.
I know, yeah.
Trudeau,
Freeland, I know.
Some of the challenges we have is getting that gas to market. And the United States government and Biden have closed down the construction of some pipelines that would have allowed our gas, Canadian gas, to get to ports in the Gulf of Mexico and to supply the United States, which would have allowed the United States to do more to supply Europe. And also we have pipelines that we ourselves need to make sure that we can get from Western Canada across the whole continent to Eastern Canada to liquefy to send to Europe. So Canada could be a long-term solution to some of the challenges you've identified in Germany and Austria, but we need a political support in Canada and political support in the United States, because regrettably, the vast majority of that gas is in Western Canada, close to the Pacific Ocean, not close to the Atlantic Ocean. But you've identified a major problem that Western Europe, particularly Germany and Austria, are dependent on Russian oil and gas, and
extremely 80%.
Weaning that dependence is critically important. But gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for joining us tonight, because I want to echo that. I found when I was in Kiev doing business, and I was there for about 6 months over the course of 3 years on a couple of different trips, that at that time, there was no difference between Russian-speaking people and Ukrainian-speaking people, and my translators just switched what language they had to translate from and to in different meetings, and there was lots of business association with both Moscow-based banks as well as at the time primarily German-based banks, and people were just as proud to take me to the Russian Orthodox churches, the Ukrainian Orthodox churches, and the Ukrainian Catholic churches as they were any other ones. And Alfred, I have to tell you that I got friendly with a ticket taker at the Kiev Opera, and she would give me one single seats in the first couple of rows night after night. And I went to the Ukrainian Opera probably a dozen times over the course of my visits, and enjoyed it immensely. Kiev is a beautiful city, a wonderful city. I loved it immensely, and enjoyed my visits. I went to Poltava, I went to Lvov, I went to that city that I think has got 26 letters in it that I can't pronounce, Dmytro, whatever it is. And I enjoyed the Ukrainian people. I enjoyed the Ukrainian culture. It is an absolute, shame's not a strong enough word. It's a travesty of what's happening. And I think, Alfred, you're right, it's genocide. And we in the West, living our comfortable lives, have to support these gentlemen, their families, their communities, their businesses, and the entire Ukrainian people and government and military and economy. Thank you both for joining us. That's our show for tonight. I remind you, I'm on every Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock on 960 AM. Both you gentlemen can stream me online if you're interested and listen to your show at 6 o'clock my time, which I think is midnight your time, at www.saga960am.ca. Good night, everybody.